What's up, guys? So I got a good question today. This is gonna be a fun one, I think. The question basically comes down to our friend who is about 210 pounds, and he trains at a gym, and he said he has a lot of trouble rolling with the smaller people. He says that they don't like rolling with him, and they complain that he's too strong and uses too much strength, and so when it comes time to roll, they shy away from him. They scatter, right? And so what he's asking is there a particular way, or is there a way that he can roll with smaller people, being this big 210 pound guy, that will sort of get them to, or encourage them to roll with them? So, absolutely. So let me start by saying that I totally understand this. My weight's yo-yoed from 200 pounds to about 250 pounds. Right now I'm about 215. And so it's kind of bounced all around the place depending on what I was focused on at the time. So I've pretty much always been a bigger guy, and I've dealt with this. And when I first started training, all the way up until about purple belt level, I was in the same boat as, let me say this. I was in the same boat as you. Little guys didn't like to roll with me, and that was because I was afraid of losing. I hated losing. Didn't matter if it was competition training or just like day-to-day training. I didn't want to lose ever. So when I would roll the small guy, I would squeeze them with every ounce of energy I had. And they didn't like to roll with me because a lot of times, like again, there's certain consequences that if you're like a 200 plus pounder, if you're squeezing with every ounce of energy and just crashing down on someone who's like 130, 140 pounds, right? There's certain consequences that can happen that are not present if that person's 200 plus pounds, right? Like ribs popping out of place and necks being popped out to the side, all that kind of stuff. So little guys didn't like to roll with me. So I feel it, Now, I'm gonna let's give you a side note first, and then I'll kind of give you the tip that has made my rolling with little guys better. It's encouraged them to roll with me more, and I get a huge benefit from it, and I'll share it in a second. But I wanna start by saying, if you are a smaller guy, and you are complaining about someone using too much strength. Again, we've all heard this before. Oh, you use too much strength. You only beat me because you're big. You got out of it because you're strong. We hear that all the time. Everybody's heard that. I've said that before, right? And most of us have said that. But it's an excuse, and you don't want to use it. Right? And again, there is a certain element when people are not rolling safe. And if you're a smaller guy and you got a big guy, like a big dude who's not rolling safe, that's definitely a thing. You got to be careful about that. But just rolling with big guys that are strong, you can't use it as an excuse like, oh man, you're just strong. Because again, you can't say, hey man, you beat me because you're fast, or you beat me because you're in really good shape, or you beat me because you're really flexible. You can't say that, even though like maybe someone bends their foot and while you're passing the guard, you got past the guard and they bend their foot in front of you, right? And then you're back in the guard, but you can't say, oh man, you stopped my guard pass because you're flexible, because obviously that's an excuse. You can't say that, but we hear it all the time with strengths. Now, moving on to the next part, how to roll with a small guy if you're a big dude, how to do it. So for me, one of the things that people comment a lot when they roll with me is that I'm a big guy that moves a lot. Man, you're fast for a big dude, or man, I wasn't expecting that. You're moving all over the place. And the reason that I'm able to move at a fast pace is because when I roll with my smaller training partners, I try to roll at their pace. Instead of me rolling like in big guy mode, like squeezing and smashing and putting the pressure down, I try to move like a little dude. I try to bounce around all over the place and twist my hips back and forth and do all that stuff. And the reason I started doing that was because back in the day, I've talked about this before, I wanted to develop movement in my game, right? I would watch guys, and the things that really looked beautiful to me in jiu-jitsu were the guys that were just bouncing all over the place, and their movement was just crazy, and they didn't stop. And a lot of times if you watch a jiu-jitsu match, a lot of times the guy that stops moving is the guy that loses. And so I was like, well, I need to get better movement because I don't move enough. So when I started rolling with the small guys, instead of putting pressure down, I would just bounce around with them, create scrambles, and I would try to move at their pace and try to beat them with finesse and technique. Now the benefit for me was that, one, I'm basically getting used to using better technique. I'm not using all my power, but most importantly, I'm picking up that 130, 140, 150 pound pace. I'm moving at the pace of a small dude. It was exhausting at first, he was wearing me out. But what happened was then when I went up to, like when I go to competitions and I roll with a bigger guy, they feel like they're moving in slow motion because I'm used to rolling with like 150 pounders sometimes. I'm used to keeping the pace of a 130 to 150 pounder, but then I'm rolling with like a 200 to 300 pounder, right? So they feel like they're moving in slow motion and I'm moving all over the place and I'm chipping away at them and wearing them out. And at the same time, I can also bring my strength into the mix too. So it's a double whammy. Now the flip side to that is because I started rolling like that with the smaller people, they in turn kind of like to roll with me a little bit more. They're like, oh, I can roll with this big guy because he's not going to break my neck or he's not going to bust a rib or something, right? It's going to be a fun engagement. It's going to be a fun roll. Now, sort of a side note, guys, is that you have to put pressure on some guys sometimes. Like if they're getting ready for a competition, you got to put the pressure on them. You got to put that strength on them because you have to know how to deal with that. And so there are times where you have to put your weight on them. You just have to remember that our bodies are a finite resource, right? Once they're used up, they're used up. You only get so much of you to go around. And that's why you have to train smart, because you can only tear your muscles and tendons and cartilage and stuff. You can only do that stuff so many times. And once it's done, it's done. There's, you know, part kaput. That's it, right? So you want to make sure that when you're training smart. One, to preserve your own body, but you also want to make sure that you're helping preserve your partners as well. Make sure that, you know, again, there's certain points where like you don't need to wrench on their neck anymore, right? You don't need to do it. You don't need to pop something out of place, right? This is why we don't pop everybody's arm, because again, if you're popping everybody's arm or, you know, wrenching on people's necks all the time, they're not going to be able to train for very long. So if you're a bigger guy, just understand that when you do roll with those small guys, again, if you're wrenching on their neck and stuff, there's certain things that can happen because of the size difference. And you want to make sure that you're doing things with a safe, controlled manner. And then if you need to kick it up for tournament training or something, fine, do it. But if not, on a day-to-day basis, try to move at their pace. Try to move fast. Try to move at a small guy pace. This way you can pick up that speed and you can be the big guy that moves fast. Every big guy's strong, but not every big guy moves fast. Not every big guy's bouncing all over the place. So that's my answer. So I got big guys out there. I hope this video helps you get some more training partners with your smaller gym mates. And if you guys have any questions, shoot them over. I'll talk to you guys next time.